What's up, guys? This is Genetic Minority bringing you, alongside my partner in crime, the Antichrist of the IWC, Chase Oliver 68, another Monday Night Raw review for the night of January 5th, 2015?
2015, the new year, bruh.
The first Raw of the new year. Out with the old and in with the old.
And with the same old shit, man. Nothing has changed with this company. It's still the same.
I tweeted earlier, I was like, it's funny that the hashtag new era of the authority feels the exact same as the old one. Some guy was like, give it a chance. And then right after that, we had Dolph versus Wade Barrett. And I was like, it kind of feels like that time when your girl tells you she's got something new and freaky for you, but it's just the same thing with a different outfit.
Oh yeah, exactly. She's all trying to hype you up. She's all like, "Oh, you're gonna love tonight. It's gonna be super exciting." And it's like the same shit you would do on any other night.
Mm-hmm. Oh, except she wore pink this time.
Yeah. Oh, she wore pink. Oh, well, great. That really brightens my mood. But seriously, like, this was like why I hated the ending to last week's Raw, was because like you knew that they were gonna kick off the show with the authority just cutting a long-winded promo that you didn't care about. And it was like, why did all the superstars have to be out there in the middle of the ring just for the authority to cut this promo to announce, oh, Seth Rollins is going to be in the, main event, like, of the Royal Rumble? Why did you need everyone out there? And why did you need everyone out there to say it's John Cena Appreciation Night? Like, what the frick was this opening segment accomplishing besides, like, putting you to bed a little bit earlier?
I'll tell you what it was accompanying. It's supposed to build the allure, like the superstars were going to turn on Cena, which will never happen. Mm-hmm. And so did, spoiler alert, the main event, but we'll get to that when we get there. But yeah, we have Cena. Raw starts off, Cena's in the ring apologizing with all the whole roster standing around him, and he gets cut off by the authority. They cut their little long-winded heel promo, announce that Seth Rollins is now added to the Royal Rumble match between Bork and Cena. And
that's just stupid, man. That is just so stupid. Because if Seth Rollins, and I'm saying this right now, I don't think he's ready to win the championship or head to WrestleMania as the champion. But if Seth Rollins does not walk out of the Royal Rumble as WWE champion, why'd you put him in this match? Because you will make Seth Rollins into one of the most weakest fucks I'll ever see in my life. And I apologize for the cursing, people, but sometimes when stuff gets a little bit too stupid for the WWE, I have to say it. I mean, he has two opportunities. Man, he has two opportunities. He has the Money in the Bank, and he has this triple threat. Like, if he doesn't walk out as champion, what the hell?
This would be the perfect opportunity to have him win it legit, and then just have the briefcase as a sign of, like, if he gets beat, he can just get it right back. Like, what I was hoping they would do with, I think it was, off the top of my head, I can't remember who won it, and I had that same idea. I think it was Damian Sandow or maybe even Daniel Bryan, but yeah, they could do a whole bunch, but they're not gonna. So.
Yeah, no, because that's what I'm saying. Is like, if Seth Rollins does not walk out as WWE Heavyweight Champion, he just looks weak as hell because he has two opportunities. Like, if he loses this triple threat match, he should just cash in right away and then become the champion. But it's just like, it's just so dumb why they added him in this match. And I know why they did, because they don't want Cena or Brock to eat the pinfall. Because they know they need to keep both Cena and Brock looking strong heading into WrestleMania.
Why are those two heading into WrestleMania? You know what? This podcast is going to feature something uniquely special. There's going to be random edits because there's a particular clip of a girl sitting on the ground screaming "why" that I'm going to edit in every time something stupid happens that we talk about. But it's like, why? One, yes, of course, Seth is just there to eat the pin, but it's not like he's just a top guy, like a top, heel guy who works with the authority. He's Mr. Money in the Bank. If he was just a normal top heel guy and then he got put in the match, then him eating the pin, okay, yeah, it sucks, but I understand why. But he has no reason to, one, he really has no reason to eat the pin because it makes him look weak as a whole, and two, he has no reason to eat the pin and then still not try to leave champion. Unless they're planning on having him cash in and lose, which God hope they don't do another Damian Sandow.
They don't do that with Seth Rollins, man. Like, because I'll be honest here, coming from someone who wasn't the biggest Seth Rollins fan in the past, and now he's kind of improved and has shown me that this guy can be a star in the future. It's like, dude, don't waste your money in the bank on this dude if you're not going to go all the way with him. Like, you need to go all the way with this guy matches in the Money in the Bank, you need to make him champion at some point soon. Because he's been featured on our TV sets so many damn months. Seth Rollins has just been featured in opening segment, main event segments. He's main evented a couple pay-per-views. Yeah, he's won in a cheap way in every main event pay-per-view he's been in, but hey, at least he's winning main events, unlike some superstars. Like, they've done I want to say a great job with him as a heel. Today's standards in wrestling and today's WWE PG era standards and what we're used to getting, yeah, they've done a great job with him. But overall, as a heel character, it's just kind of like a decent job. But, you know, he's been decently booked as a heel, which we can barely say about most heels that they book. So it's like, if he doesn't win the championship at all during this run of him turning against the Shield, there's no point in him turning against the Shield all the way back in, June, July? There was no point in that whole segment. You guys just did it because you wanted a knee-jerk reaction. You wanted something big to happen over the summer that we weren't expecting. But yeah, it's like, it just sucks because I know Seth's just in this match to eat the pin. He's just there because you can't have Cena looking too weak heading into fucking the WrestleMania because he's always a top marquee guy. He's still, you know, the face of the company, and he's still going to get a big WrestleMania match. And you don't want Brock looking weak because, you know, Brock is the champion, and he's going to be the champion heading into Mania most likely if the plans stay the same. I just don't know why they added Seth Rollins into this match because it's just like you were building this as Cena Lesnar final encounter, and it just almost feels like you're just throwing Seth in there just to give a lot of wrestling fans false hope that he's going to walk out as champion.
Yeah, it's just like the concept of this is Cena Lesnar final encounter featuring Seth Rollins irritates me. It's a waste. It's a waste of him as a talent. Now, I was always a big fan of him as Tyler Black. And I thought, you know, he had massive amount of potential coming into WWE because they didn't let him. He didn't really talk much, and he wasn't that good to start off talking in front of a WWE crowd when he came in as Seth Rollins. And I agree 100% with you with the whole, like, I wasn't really behind him as Seth Rollins, but he's definitely coming to his own. And now the time when you can have him look strong, you're gonna use him as the fall guy to two guys that don't need him to be the fall guy to continue to look strong, especially Cena and maybe Brock, but especially not Cena. And that is irritating to just watch, especially a young talent. And it's surprising to look down WWE's like list of people and how many of them are actually still relatively young and how many that they're trying to push now that are kind of old. It's just like they're just gonna waste it. They're gonna squander all his, you know, Seth Rollins' talent in nothing and having him eat pins, unnecessary pins. They always do. They squander these guys' talents. That's all that is. And sometimes it's, you know, that guy's fault. Like, and sometimes it's just like they're not good. You know, they're not good to cross over into the mainstream. But, you know, Seth Rollins is a guy. He came out of the Indies, was beloved there. Came to WWE, built his own brand new fan base. Was a good crossover guy. Has gotten progressively better, showing that he can and more likely will be better in the future. Can put the company on his back and carry it as a heel. And you're going to make him eat this unnecessary pin to two completely over monstrous guys that don't need him, one, in the match in the first place, and two, to be the fall guy.
Totally agree.
And that's that. So,
and another thing I want to point out here was, like, what was the point of calling this, you know, John Cena Appreciation Night? Because, like, they didn't really do anything, like, the whole night to make you feel like it was like a John Cena Appreciation Night. They only showed like one or two clips of Cena's career.
I think they showed him versus when he started against Kurt Angle with the shake hand with the Undertaker backstage. They showed him coming back with Chris Jericho, and then they showed maybe there were only two. Maybe they showed one more, so they showed about two or three.
Yeah, right. They didn't show that much. They didn't try to shove it down your throat. It was just kind of weird because normally with anything that is John Cena, they would try to shove it down your throat, but they didn't do it here. So I was just questioning to myself, why would you even call this show John Cena Appreciation Night and make it such a big deal? That's why I say this opening segment was a waste of time because, one, you didn't follow up the gimmick of this whole show was supposed to be John Cena Appreciation Night, and two, you just pretty much. Yeah, I don't even want to go to because I'll just leave it into a long rant. Well, it was just dumb.
It's fine to make it a longer. It's a Monday night podcast. It's a one-time-a-week deal. But even still, this segment could have just as good if they had just had like a handful of superstars just beat Cena up. He's coming out there apologizing or shut him or take the mic out of his hands. You know, you're making the Cena appreciate. Yeah, you want to spotlight Cena. You're, basically kind of, flipping the whole they shove Cena down our throats thing back at us to make us not like Cena more. So why not have people retaliate against Cena like how the people who don't like Cena, such as myself, want?
Yeah, exactly. Why would you have it where the superstars are just like, oh, it's okay, John? Like, no, if I'm like Roman Reigns, has established in the past, he doesn't really give a shit about Cena. Remember, back in the summertime, Roman Reigns didn't give a fuck about John Cena. He said, I would punch John Cena in the mouth. Like, my boy Cockfist already hates, John Cena. So why doesn't Cockfist just grab the microphone and be like, I guess you're really not a Superman after all, John? Like, does that make Cockfist look like such a bad guy that he's questioning?
Yes, he's a monster heel at that point, and he can't be a heel.
He's not a heel if he questions John Cena. He's just asking a simple question that anyone would.
No, Chase, you don't understand. You're a heel. You're a heel right now for questioning Cena, and so am I.
Yeah, exactly. We'll talk more about the failure of this Raw, trying to get sympathy of John Cena, but let's talk about more of the failures of this episode of Raw, because we're being honest with people, this episode of Raw was nothing special. There's seriously like one highlight to me, and it's Damian Mizdow. And if you listen to past podcasts, you know how much we love Mizdow, but there's just so much stupid stuff that they did on this episode where it's just like why? And it was just such a boring episode too.
We'll touch on Damian Mizdow when we get there, because I had something happen tonight with Damian Mizdow that has not yet to happen before, and that is that they made me. I didn't care what was going on with Mizdow other than the fact I heard the crowd cheer him, and after that I didn't care because he was surrounded by so many people I didn't really care about, and that bit backstage with Naomi and Alicia Fox irritated me. After that bit with Paige, all of a sudden being a face now, and now Alicia Fox is a heel. That irritated me, but I still love Mizdow.
Let's talk about that right now since we're on that subject. We can talk about the IC title match afterwards. It was like, what the fuck was that all about? Like, Paige randomly turns babyface? Like, huh? It was just kind of weird because it's like you haven't done anything with this character at all.
Like
ever since she jobbed out at Survivor Series, you haven't done anything with the Paige character. And all of a sudden you realize, hey, the fans actually like Paige. The fans actually want to get behind her instead of boo her. Because the thing with Paige is she can be a good heel, but she needs someone that is a good babyface. Which in a sense is like that person that she's feuding against. Fans have to like her as much as they like Paige, but to be able to boo Paige instead of cheer her. And the problem is with most of the divas in the Divas division is not a lot of the divas are more liked than Paige. Like, probably AJ Lee is the only one where the fans will generally respond more positively towards her than they would with Paige. That's the thing. It's like Paige is like a really popular diva when it comes down to it. She's like someone that everyone pretty much loves unanimously as a fanhood because, one, she wrestles, she has a wrestling background, and, a lot of guys just like the way she looks. So, why in the blue hell? Like, they did a good job turning her heel when they needed her to turn heel, but they never really followed up after her heel turn. They kind of just gave her the title, and then she lost it the next month like it was nothing. And now, all of a sudden, after like a Total Divas episode where like Paige apparently pranked Natalya, like all of a sudden now they're supposed to be friends. Like Paige is all of a sudden a good guy. She's like a good girl now. She did nothing wrong at all. She's a happy-go-lucky person. It's like, what the hell is this? Seriously? You couldn't do anything else with Paige? Like, this is what you do? You just force her to become a babyface because you guys finally realized, oh, people like her? Like, that's just dumb.
It's weird, too, because, like, I'm watching her, you can clearly tell she's much more adept at being a heel, because even her mannerisms on the way down the ring were still kind of very, like, her heelish stuff with AJ Lee, where it was like, oh, we're friends, whatever, not really. Kind of catty, mean girls type of heel. And it's... so that's what was bugging me. I was like, she's coming out to, like, okay, so how this segment goes, because we just lead into it. You got the Bellas in the ring after what was a string of matches.
We really need to talk about Natty versus the Bella Twins.
No, we don't need to talk about that. I'm just setting up the scene, which was Natty versus Nikki. And then, that's fine, whatever. But then, like I said, I don't watch Total Divas. Paige just came out, and she was kind of still, like, her making fun of AJ Lee heelish frenemies deal, but they're talking about how close they are. I'm like, are they friends? And then that backstage segment with Naomi and Alicia Fox, where they just completely flipped it, made Alicia Fox a heel when she was already over as a heel at one point, and they made her a face. Then she kind of was getting a little bit of steam behind her as a face, going up against Paige, who was a heel. She was just at least getting notoriety. And then they make her a heel again against Naomi, who, yes, people like her, but once again, this is the same thing. She's the face version of Paige. It's like, yeah, she's a good athlete. She's got a pretty good moveset. Most guys just like looking at her, and she's got some steam behind her. So it's just like really confusing as to what's going on throughout the course of the entire Divas division. And they changed two characters' personas. But the problem is, those characters' personas were the opposite literally like 3 months ago. And in wrestling time, that's not that long.
Yeah, exactly. It's like all of a sudden, like, we're supposed... Like, because, like, the fans are just going to love and appreciate Paige for what she does in the ring. Like, the hardcore fans, they're going to love and appreciate her no matter what she does in the ring. Mm-hmm. But it's like, to a casual fan, how can you, like, justify that this girl who was pushing AJ off the stage and wrote a poem for her saying that she was going to punch her in the face... Like, how can you, like, you know, justify, oh, yeah, this person's cool because she hangs out with Natty? It's like, well, wait, so, like, just because she's friends with Natty, all of a sudden she's a babyface? Like you said, she still acts like a heel, just like Alicia Fox. Okay, yeah, she attacked Naomi backstage, but what the fuck? She still wrestled like a face. She still acted like if she was a babyface. It was just kind of like, what are you doing with your divas? Like, what is the point of having them on the show if this is what they're going to be doing? Like, honestly, what is the point? Because, seriously, they're not doing anything worthwhile with these divas whatsoever.
They're just eye candy, I guess. I immediately think of, I believe it's Ocean's 13, where they're referencing how they're going to steal money from this one place, and that I think it's Al Pacino who runs the casino that they're going to steal from. He has a bunch of models who are waitresses, and he's allowed to critique their weight and how they look because they're hired as models who serve. That's all I think of. I think of Vincent Kennedy McMahon being Al Pacino in Ocean's 13, being a huge jerk and being like, I can critique these women because they're women who just happen to wrestle. And that's that. That's all the Divas division is, and it's out of control. And once again, this bit that's annoying, mostly me. I don't know how annoyed you are about it, but you know, you clearly don't like it. But they're not in the title picture, and haven't been on TV in like a month, and them showing back up.
Paige is entering into the title picture because she's like facing Nikki at like main event. So it seems like they're trying to force her back into the title picture, but it's like you haven't built up to this. You haven't built up to a reason for you know, like I said before, people are just going to like Paige for what she does in the ring, but for most of the casuals and a lot of other people, it's like, what is there another reason to like Paige? She hasn't done anything in months to make you say, you know what, I actually like this girl. She hasn't really done anything babyface-ish in a month, and you know, hardcore fans are going to be like, oh, I'll support her no matter what. Well, that's good because you're a hardcore fan. Mm-hmm. But I'm talking about for the casuals. If you're a casual fan, you have no reason to get behind this girl. You have no reason to say, I want to see Paige win the title. You know?
Yeah, that's just, you know, they're shoving her in the main event. They're making her. They're probably just going to make her another fall guy or fall girl, if you want to be politically correct. Fall person. Six person mixed tag match. God, I hate political correctness. So yeah, that's just irritating to, you know, watch. But we did get outside of that whole Naomi garbage backstage, we got Naomi and the Usos versus Miz and Alicia Fox, with Miz and the Miz winning, which is cool, but I don't really care. It's like I know they're building with this whole, you know, feud with them, and that's great. Don't get me wrong. Like, I don't have a problem with the way they're building this feud, but it came at a point in their show where they had already strung. This entire night was a string of matches and segments I didn't care about, and I had no reason to care about, and one that irritated me, and it completely downed the show for me. And that's followed with, yes, Mizdow's great. I'm glad the crowd cheered for him. This crowd cheering for Mizdow made them better than Tulsa, Oklahoma. But at the same time, Alicia Fox is now all of a sudden a part of this, which makes it and Naomi, which now makes it a confusing mess because they're going to try to shove the fact that one, Naomi's not messing around with, but being buddy with the Miz, which upsets Jimmy Uso because everyone knows, according to Total Divas, he's super jealous, which is fine. Okay, well now Alicia Fox is in this. Alicia Fox has got beef with her because they're both on Total Divas. Well, now you have like 1.5 Total Divas storylines that you need to be watching Total Divas or have watched Total Divas to keep up with, and the other one, which should be more important, which is the feud between Mizdow and the Usos, and that's kind of taking a backseat to basically what is like 1.5 of a Total Divas episode. For what?
Nothing.
And if it's for the Usos to look strong by beating Miz and Mizdow to what I thought was, because you said it and it made sense, to lose to the Ascension, that doesn't look like that's going to be happening anytime soon.
No, especially after what the Ascension did. Like, oh God, you did something wrong when Lance Storm is done watching your shit.
Lance Storm, Mr. Personality, Mr. Codpiece, he's amazing.
I mean, Lance Storm, like, did you hear? Like, he turned off Raw because the Ascension's terrible promo just pissed them off because they tried to make them seem like they're as because they came out there and they cut this really bad promo how they're going to be like the best tag team, better than LOD and stuff, and it's like, well, why is it that you have to always ruin your NXT characters, WWE? Like, why can't the Ascension just come out there and be badasses like they were in NXT? Like, these dudes, I know you didn't watch NXT, but these dudes would just literally come out here, man, and just beat up people and look like badasses the whole night.
That was all I got from them.
That was their job. That was their purpose.
Yeah.
Now you have these guys coming out looking like Demolition and the Road Warriors had a baby, and it's an abortion of a baby. And then you have it where they squash these jobbers, which I like because jobbers are still needed in today's professional wrestling.
Yes.
But it was just like, why have these guys cut a promo?
They didn't need to talk. They just came. Ryback didn't talk. He just came out and beat up jobbers. And eventually, for somehow, some way, even though casual fans apparently don't like it either, it got him over slightly, which now put him in the position where he is now. And it could have worked for them, especially as a tag team. There's not much going on in the tag team division. You could have easily boosted these guys using a couple jobber tag teams and maybe even get a couple jobber dudes' faces out there so maybe one day they could be part of the WWE. But no, instead they had the Ascension come out and talk about, you know what the promo by the Ascension reminded me of? Of the rap group Ray Shrimmer. Or Ray Shrimmer, apparently, that's how it's pronounced, even though there's a D on the end and I speak English. But anyway, Ray Shrimmer, they're two brothers who are literally, no one knows who they are. They're in their early 20s, and one of their top songs is called No Flex Zone, where they talk about all this stuff that they have. It's like, you just got into the rap game. How could you possibly be the best when you haven't even had a hit song? Like, that's what the Ascension was. They're just two guys that, for all intents and purposes, when they jump to the main roster, come out of nowhere and just are claiming their best. Like, the Ascension became modern day rappers, just claiming that they have all these things instead of being like, we struggle, we strife, we came out here, we beat all these jobbers, we came out here, we got ourselves over without saying a single word. Now, maybe they, might need to work on their mic skills. I don't know. I've never really heard them talk that much, but what I have heard isn't amazing. It's not terrible. It could be built upon. But there's no arc. There's no arc anymore. They just go from point A to point C, and there's no B in the middle anymore. There's no climax. There's no, there's no story. There's no tension built. Like, it's just bad booking for an otherwise decent tag team. And for anyone who doesn't know, the Ascension are not really young guys. They're both 34.
Yeah, like, for all you guys that don't know, Connor from the Ascension, he was Connor O'Brien on NXT. He was Rat Face. Like, you remember Alberto Del Rio's rookie?
Yeah.
That was Connor O'Brien. So it's just like, Connor has been on WWE TV before. Victor was like this failed dude. Like, if anyone watched FCW back in the day, they made Victor into like Mr. Playboy or something. Like, he would always come out with Paige and Summer Rae, and he would always win the FCW World Championship, and he didn't really do shit. Like, these guys are two failed single wrestlers, but they're so big and they're what the WWE wants. They forced them into a tag team. Their tag team worked. Their shtick worked for a bit, but now you're trying to ruin them on the main roster, trying to make them something that they aren't, which is just frustrating to me because it's just like, these guys are really talented and they're much better than what the WWE is trying to present them as. Like, I'm glad they face jobbers, like I said earlier, but it's just like, these two are much more better than what we're getting, and it's just, they're trying to ruin them. They're trying to sabotage and ruin them. And now I'm afraid that Mighty Mouse is true about Adrian Neville. Now I'm afraid when fucking Adrian Neville comes out, he's gonna be wearing some stupid little mouse hat or something. Like, ugh.
He might. He more than likely will. And I loved Adrian Neville when he was Pac, and I knew since he walked into WWE, I was like, he's not gonna be the man that gravity forgot. He's just gonna be a guy that's like, hey, remember that dude who, get high fly really good? Well, he's in WWE now. Sweet, yay! Indies guys are making it, and I was just like, okay, that's cool. And he showed signs of being Pac, and that's great. But I knew, and this right here with the Ascension, who there are already guys that have been in WWE for a while, and they haven't pinpointed what they want to do with them, even though they have an established gimmick that works. Perfect example being Big E's 5 gimmick that worked for him, and they just threw it away, and it was still working for him, even his transition to WWE. That's just, once again, bad booking by that little toady who I always see on commercials for WWE Divas, who's constantly telling the Divas off. I don't know who they do, Mark or whatever his name is.
Mark Ronald.
Yeah. Isn't he one of the writers? I blame that guy just because I see his face.
He's a talent relations dude.
He doesn't know talent.
The talent, what they need to do and stuff.
He looks like Barney Rubble mixed with Todd Glass.
Mark Carano, man. Yeah, really, like, from the episodes of Total Divas because I used to watch the show because it was, like, entertaining, but the writing became so bad for the show.
Because the WWE writers.
No, it used to be better than WWE. And then all of a sudden, the writing just became super fake. That you knew, like, oh yeah, these people are just acting, and they're not doing a good job at it. Like Carano, like his role in the show is just literally to tell people, like, you're never going to make it inside the WWE ring. You'll never become a diva. And it's like that's literally his job on that show is just to put down these girls and tell them how much they suck.
Good job for him and everything he's accomplished in life. I hope his family's happy with everything they get to watch their son do. You can tell by the enthusiasm in my voice. Moving on, what we actually got, which is the second segment. We've bounced around because they're important things we need to cover.
It kind of makes sense why we bounced around because this Raw is kind of all over the place. And I think we left it perfectly where we can talk about the next 3 matches and then talk about the main event segment.
Oh, yeah.
Because the next 3 matches are kind of like setups to, the main event. Some of the jobber stuff that we probably won't glance over is that, like, now Cesaro and Kid are teaming up with Adam Rose to face up against the Bad Day. So,
the racist bros. God, I don't want to talk about it.
And then Cockfist and Big Show had a match again, which really who cares? Cockfist won by DQ.
Yeah, that's jeez. I actually had big hopes for Big Show too. I even put him down in my notes as the man who took out the trash and Garbageman, but then Garbageman came out later and I was like, gross.
Well, by the way, what was with Cockfist tonight? He was all cutting these Superman promos.
I don't know, man. I think they wanted to try to, because they were doing this whole Cena appreciation night, they wanted to try to avoid the concept that Cena has always been Super Cena. So they were like, go out there and talk about how you're like Superman. And that'll make sure people... But we'll show a clip of Cena and fade into your face when we go back to your match after commercial. But you're the Superman, not Cena. We want everyone to know that. I don't know. That's my best assumption, is that they want to kind of associate being a Superman with Roman Reigns, so they can, and they really wanted to push that home tonight while they're focusing on Cena to be like, Cena's just a dude who happened to be really good and got lucky. Roman Reigns, he's a Superman. Super Cena, I don't know what that is. They're trying to play dumb or whatever and try to refocus the beam of, the Superman notion to Reigns. So the 3 matches we got Dolph Ziggler with the Authority announced these matches at the beginning of the night. Basically, it's Dolph Ziggler versus Bad News Barrett. I don't really like the name Bad News Barrett as his name. I much prefer that just be like a thing that he does. But anyway, so we got B&B versus Dolph Ziggler for the IC title, and immediately, like, the match happened, and I was like, this was when I tweeted at the guy, I was like, this new era of the Authority feels exactly like the old one. And then that match ended super quick, and I was just like, why?
Yeah, it was a 2 out of 3 falls match, and it didn't even feel like it. It felt like it was just like, hey, go out there, wrestle for 10 minutes, and stuff like that. And They put on the usual Bad News Barrett and Dolph Ziggler match, and once again, you're back to square one. Let's get Bad News Barrett the IC title. Fuck you, Dolph Ziggler. And how many times do I have to say it? The company will never get behind Dolph Ziggler.
We have said it for the past 2 shows.
But they never will. And this is not proof that the company will never get behind this guy. I don't know what is. I don't know what more proof I have to show. People can spin it around and say, well, he's a part of the storyline right now, Chase. Well, yeah, he may be a part of the storyline right now, but when he comes back like the superhero that we all know the baby faces are, he ain't going to be doing shit afterwards. That's just the truth. That's just the truth when it comes down to it at the end of the day. So, really, to be honest, they're never going to get behind Dolph Ziggler. For whatever reason, these guys still believe in Bad News Barrett when all it takes is like one flick at the wrist and this guy gets injured. And people are going to be like, oh, he faces off against people, that work too hard. Well, you're in fucking wrestling. Yeah. You're in fucking wrestling. If your body doesn't know how to take the punishment, get the fuck out of there.
Your job is to take bumps. I mean, everyone remembers that clip of Triple H walking in the ring to Toughen Up Kid, take a bump. That's your job. I mean, don't get me wrong. I saw the throw into the barricade with Jack Swagger did to him, and then Swagger has an incident of accidentally hurting guys, at least on one other occasion with Dolph Ziggler. So you kind of can chalk it up to that. But Bad News Barrett came back. He had a little bit of pop, but now no one cares. Why are you going to strap the title on him? Who's he going to feud with? Because it's really not going to be Dolph. If you just have Dolph win the title back, I mean, you're just I'm assuming they're just going to make him the new, Jericho of the IC title, just win it a bunch of times. And I guess that's the way of shutting us up. People who like Dolph Ziggler and want to see him pushed. I doubt that they'll do that, but I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. But, I mean, giving the title to Bad News Barrett doesn't do anything. Who's he going to lose it to? Who's he going to face again? There's no established talent to come and take it from him. I mean, except for maybe Dean. And that wouldn't, or Roman Reigns. So there's 2 guys, and those guys have other things at least Reigns has other things that are planned for him in the future. The IC title is more than likely not a part of it. So it's just why? I mean, Bad News Barrett, I don't have a problem with him. I liked him. I liked Wade Barrett. But, he's not over right now. And shoving the title on him every time he's not over isn't just always going to miraculously make him over. It didn't before. Him being Bad News Barrett made him over, and that was great. But they always shove the IC title on him to try to put him over, and it's just it doesn't put him. It's the same thing with Kofi Kingston. It's what put him over was that feud he was having with Randy Orton back in 2009. It was nothing to do with any of the times you shoved the U.S. title or the Intercontinental title or the tag title on him. It was just him, good writing, good person to feud with, putting each other over. But no. They gotta shove the title on Bad News Barrett. They just haven't. They had a good person for him to feud with back with Cesaro and Sheamus, but that title gets involved and it doesn't help put him over, especially as a heel, because as a heel title holder, he's just gonna be losing a bunch of matches until the pay-per-view where he somehow ekes out a cheat, win. So why?
Pretty much.
And
pretty much that's Bad News Barrett. Maybe it's RVD subjected to return soon. Maybe RVD will come back and feud with him again.
I actually wouldn't mind RVD taking the title, because then you could build a young guy to come and take it from him. Maybe even Adrian Neville, a high flyer versus a high flyer.
Come on, man, that makes too much sense.
I know, right? I keep making all this sense. So we keep forgetting, man. We should just call this the Making Sense podcast, the anti-WWE Logic podcast.
It's breaking down Raw podcast. I don't know. We're still trying to think of a name. Raw Review Podcast. I think that's a simple name.
It's a simple name. I had the idea just because I know that I always get stuck I like Dolph Ziggler, and I personally always get stuck in the same spot on the internet where I just kind of float as a D- F list internet comedian. I was gonna call it the Mid Card Hell Podcast just cause, but we'll figure it out. But I like the Raw Review thing is fun. But nevertheless, so Bad News Barrett won. First off, this was irritating. Is he lost the pin in a really quick, random, out of nowhere, roll up or whatever. I don't even remember how he won or lost. And then Kane comes out and he's like, "Oh, it's a 2 out of 3 falls match. Sorry." And then Bad News Barrett wins, and I'm like, and Kane sat outside the match watching the whole time, but never interfered, and that was irritating that they kept cutting back to him. Completely unnecessary.
I hate Kane now. Like, I used to love Kane. Kane's one of my favorites of all time. Now I just can't stand watching this guy. Like, seriously, like, did he just wake up one morning and he was wearing, like, his business slacks, like he had a long day at the political office, and he laid down and he woke up one morning and he saw himself in the mirror and he was like, honey, do you think this looks good? And his wife was like, sure, I guess. He's like, yeah, I'm going to wear this when I wrestle. I swear, I think that's what Kane literally did. He just woke up one morning, saw himself in this fucking dress pants, and said, you know what? I'm going to wrestle in these. Like, it's just pathetic seeing Kane now. It really is. And speaking of pathetic, we got Garbageman next, taking on Luke Harper.
Garbageman.
And this pissed me off, man. Like, Luke Harper needed help from Jamie Noble and fucking Joey Mercury to beat Garbageman. Like,
think about this for a minute.
What do they see in this piece of shit? What do they see? I don't get it. Why? Why is it that this piece of shit has to be pushed as a babyface? What is interesting about Garbageman? Like, okay, I understand Luke Harper to a degree why you're pushing him, because I like Luke Harper. I think this guy's good.
Yep.
Yeah, but Garbageman, what does he have? Like, he botches his only good move. Like, I don't get this this fucking love for this asshole. I'm sorry, I just don't get it. He sucks.
I don't. I guess it's the beard. I don't know. The goat mask. He's a sheep. Something. It's stupid. They don't know what they're doing with this guy. They don't know who he's feuding with. They don't know what faction he sits on, other than the fact that now he's a face. They have him stalking Renee Young, but that easily could have ended in him be a heel and ended it with kind of not openly stated, but a feud with Dean Ambrose, and have him lose out to Dean Ambrose and then go back to joining the Wyatt family because he's a loser on his own. But no, instead they want to push him for singles competitions because he's tall. He's not like a big powerhouse menacing looking guy. He's like Great Khali, tall, but it's not and yeah, he's kind of big, but I mean he's reaching Great Khali levels of he's already reached Great Khali levels of I don't care, but he's reaching that level of like he's becoming a joke to see in the ring. And it's like, I heard he killed a guy once type of lore is being built about him. I don't like Erick Rowan. I don't. His character was great as a silent. He said like 2 or 3 words and he meant them in the Wyatt family, being like the Festus of the Wyatt family, and it worked great. He's creepy. He wears the mask. He's got the crazy long beard, makes him look like a goat. Everything about his Wyatt family gimmick worked so perfect. WWE thought it was a stupid idea.
No, I don't get it. I just don't know why they push him in general. Like, this guy's a tag team wrestler that doesn't deserve to be a singles wrestler right now. This guy should be where Cesaro's at, like teaming with Tyson Kidd, doing some goopy tag team. Not fucking being one of the main players in a big time storyline. Just ridiculous.
Yeah, it just whatever. So he loses to Erick Rowan with the help of J&J Security. And he's there. Luke leaves the ring, and J&J Security decide to go for the beatdown. But of course, they're incompetent, so they can't beat him completely. We need a surprisingly slow spinning clothesline from Luke Harper to take out a guy who's the same size and weight. For some reason, like, he lost momentum in the spin when he hit him. Clothesline, and then they can just take him out and beat him down. And Luke Harper can just be kind of like weird and have a weird raggedy beard and stuff, and that was that. Like, it's just like he got clothesline and kind of stomped out a little, and that was his big beatdown. I mean, Dolph got like beat down. Dolph's the only one who ever takes a real legitimate beatdown, and Erick Rowan can't have him get beat down. Just get him clothesline, stomp on him a little. You don't want to dirty up his Garbageman outfit.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. You don't want to dirty up his only outfit that he wears to the ring.
Yeah.
Then what was next? Ryback had a handicap match?
Oh, yeah. So Ryback is... No, we had Dean versus... So we're going to just skip Dean versus...
We'll talk about that later.
All right.
Let's skip the Authority storyline stuff first, and then we can go into Dean and Wyatt, and then we can talk about the main event segment.
All right. So we get Kane... Oh, not Kane. Jeez. You got Ryback's coming on. He's got a match against Seth Rollins.
Number 1 contender to the WWE Heavyweight Champion, Seth Rollins.
Why did you say?
You gotta put that in there.
Number 1 contender to
Seth Rollins, being the number 1 contender, can't beat Ryback by himself. So the boring-ass Kane has to come out there, suck the wind out of this match, make it a boring-ass handicap match, where Seth Rollins needed all the help in the world to beat fucking Ryback.
And two curb stomps.
Huh?
And two curb stomps.
Yeah, he needed help in the world. He needed help from J&J. He needed help from Kane. He needed help he needed to do two curb stomps. And look, I get it, protecting Ryback and all. And that's cool and all, because I'm a fan of Ryback. But look, Seth Rollins is the number one contender to the WWE Heavyweight Champion. He's the number one contender to that belt. He's going to be facing Brock Lesnar, who is booked like a fucking beast, and John Cena, who we all know, no matter how he's booked, he's Mr. Superman. He's Mr. Do It Everything. He's Mr. Good Guy. So no matter what, John Cena is always booked well. Same with Brock Lesnar. Why do you book Seth Rollins so damn weak? I get it, people, he's a heel, but seriously, a heel that's a number one contender to a world title should be able to beat someone who's not even in contention by themselves. Maybe use one heel tactic to win the match, but not like a multiple factor of heel tactics to win, because he used a multiple factor of heel tactics just to win this match.
It's irritating to see what is modern day heels, even in this case a top one, having to use like JBL's cabinet / Triple H and Evolution levels of interference, which would normally be reserved in both those two cases I just named for main event guys. Like JBL had, all the Basham brothers in Orlando coming out there. It wasn't for his some match he had against some dude off ECW because he hated ECW. I don't care. I'll just clothesline that guy, call it a day. Triple H didn't have guys like that coming out when he had a match against the Hurricane. Those guys were strictly reserved for when he had matches against Shawn Michaels or somebody else who was a contender. But Seth Rollins is supposed to be this top heel, and you got J&J Security, you got Kane. That's quintessentially his Evolution, his JBL's cabinet. That's fine, but he should be able to. And I get it, Ryback is supposed to look strong. If that's the case, don't book him with Ryback.
Yeah, and also the two curb stomp ending. That's a fine ending to make Ryback look strong. No one's going to think Ryback's a pussy if he kicks out of two curb stomps. You don't need to send two other guys at him. If anything, it just shows how vicious Seth Rollins is, because he will go out any lengths to win as a heel. And it also makes Ryback look like a badass because it took not one but two curb stomps to get rid of this guy. And the curb stomp is like a deadly finisher. This finisher has taken out Dean Ambrose and Randy Orton off of television. So, that finisher is not a weak move. It's a good move to help elevate someone. So it's just like you said, he doesn't need these guys to be out there all the time. I understand maybe for the big match or the contender, you have it where they interfere once or twice and that's it. But it was just constant, we got to protect Ryback and Seth booking that I just hated it. It's no, the whole reason and the concept of Monday Night Raw, for a lot of people who don't understand, was one of the main reasons why they made this show was so that way you could see pay-per-view matches free on TV and make it feel like it's a special match every time you're watching. This doesn't feel like a special match. This just feels like, this is just lazy booking, and then I'm going to get a pretty standard match if they ever wrestle on pay-per-view. If they actually worked a good match on television and then they don't went on to the pay-per-view to wrestle, then it could be a even better match because they would be given more time. That's the thing. They lost concept of what their show originally was built around, was to build their stars in big ways. This is why you miss jobbers and enhancement guys on your roster, because those guys would be the people that would be out there just basically their job is to, make the other guy look good, make the other guy win and stuff like that.
I mean, for God's sake, we had a freaking stable called the Job Squad back in the day. That's all these guys were. Al Snow was running the Job Squad. This was something that was an established thing, and now it's just kind of thrown in the wind. And the problem with WWE is their thing is always we gotta protect these guys. Sometimes the best way to protect a dude is to let him take a beat down. That's the best way to protect his character, is to let his character take a beat down. But they use it different. For example, being Dolph Ziggler. Dolph Ziggler's character is never protected, but he's constantly taking beatdowns. Whereas other guys' characters are protected, but their characters aren't believable because they're not taking I'm not believing that Ryback is tougher just because there's a bunch of interferences. Anybody could lose/win with a bunch of random interferences. But if he eats 2 curb stomps, like you said, and that's how he gets pinned. Like, he hits him with 1 curb stomp, and Seth Rollins is just like, I don't care whether or not he's going to kick out. I'm going to curb stomp him again, and he does. Ryback gets pinned. He's like, well, for one, all intents and purposes, it took 2 curb stomps to put the monster Ryback down. And 2, Seth Rollins, like you said, is super vicious for just throwing in another curb stomp without even attempting to pin him beforehand.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like you just have it where Ryback is getting up, and instead of Seth Rollins just looks on there, and then instead of like freaking like you get what I'm saying. It just makes no sense what they're doing.
Yeah, the constant, and the thing is too is that this interference, once again, this was just for big guys. The big guys that these guys were gonna, pay-per-views, or a really big match. Where it's like, if you lose this match, whoever your opponent is at the pay-per-view gets to choose a stipulation type stuff. I can't just lose this match to this random jobber. On the off chance that a guy like Ryback, who's not a jobber, but a guy who's building steam behind him. Oh man, if he just had, if there's some kind of like, say he was gonna, be out of the triple threat match if he loses to Ryback, then that makes sense that he's like, I don't want to lose. Like, Ryback's got steam behind him, I can't lose. But it's just like he's just a normal match, and it's meant to build this whole how could this happen to me? I made my mistakes. Sad song for Cena, but it doesn't help anyone, and in fact, it hurts Seth Rollins. It makes you irritated to see J&J Security and Kane on TV, and that's coming from a guy who actually really, really likes Kane. I like Kane in his like funny ECW title reign. That was fun for me, and his world title reign against Edge. But it makes Seth look weak as a heel, and he's supposed to be the future / so dominant. And it doesn't make Ryback look strong. It just leaves him in the same spot he's been and always will be in. And it makes the characters you see on screen annoying to watch because they constantly interfere. And this isn't just like a once a week type thing anymore either, too. They're on TV like 3, 4. They go to live shows. They're out the entire week, and these guys are interfering in live shows that aren't even televised to perpetuate this whole no one's gonna see this except for the guy holding out his phone, and he's gonna post it up on his YouTube channel with maybe at 360p. Why do these guys have to interfere? Why can't Seth Rollins just come out and just curb stomp a dude into the dirt at a live show? Can't do it. It's out of control at the way they build their heels. And it makes you not like Seth Rollins either, because you're like, I want to like him as a dominant heel. He has what it takes to be a dominant heel. But it's J&J Security and Kane and anybody have a heel like this where they constantly have interference. They don't look strong, and they don't look like they can handle on their own, and it makes their character not believable as a heel in general. Not just as a strong heel, just as a heel. That guy's not a bad guy. He's a coward who happens to have a couple friends. And once you take those guys away, he's not a bad guy anymore. He's not an intimidating force. He's not a threat. He's nothing like the JBLs. He's nothing like the Triple H's. He's just some chump that when you take away, the mask, he's just a little kid. It's child Michael Myers as opposed to adult Michael Myers,
Totally agree, dude.
But
Monica.
That's the Codex tone. Somebody's tweeting at me.
Monica.
I had to make that my tone because of my friend. Anyway, so we got that. Let me turn my volume down. We got Seth Rollins makes Ryback eat 2 curb stomps. Calls it a day. He's beat down. Then we'll get to the main event after this. Just remember that all 3 of the, not minus the Big Show, all 3 of the surviving members of Team Cena, other than John Cena, have been beat down at the hands of the Authority because they were part of Team Cena, and that's going to factor into the main event. Well, let's get into my least favorite part of every Monday Night Raw for the past 2 months. Dean Ambrose versus Bray Wyatt. I want you to talk first, simply because you'll have.
Honestly, here's the honest truth. It just felt like every other Ambrose and Wyatt match I've watched, and that's not always a good thing. It felt like the spots were the same, except they weren't. There's a lot of botches in this match, and once again, Dean Ambrose looks like a chump. And once again, Bray Wyatt's lifeless character is getting pushed, which makes no sense to me because, like I said, this feud happened way too early in these guys' careers. The IWC just splurges all over it because it's Ambrose and Wyatt. It's the name value of those two going at it. And they don't give a fuck about storylines nowadays. That's how low of a standards most wrestling fans have to put themselves because the WWE has given you no choice. The WWE has literally booked you in a corner to have you have low standards. And the only reason why anyone cares about this match is because of the name value. If Dean Ambrose and Bray Wyatt weren't wrestling this match whatsoever, and this was anyone else, people would have shitted and hated all over this match, and that's just the truth. That is just the fucking truth.
You said almost everything I wanted to say without yelling, and that's why I wanted you to talk first, because I figured you were in at least part of my head about this one. Here's the thing. What irritated me about this match was this crowd. That it was when the crowd started chanting, "This is awesome," after Dean jumped off the top of the ambulance to put Bray through that ridiculously stupid-looking table. Pause it for me. I have like a graphic that is for my other set of videos called The Rant. That's going to be on the screen for a minute. Here's the thing. Like Chase just said, you let WWE browbeat you down into believing that something as simple as what he has been doing for the past 5 weeks straight is supposedly, he just does it in different spots. It's the exact same match you've seen since last week, the week before that. It's almost the exact same 5-minute bit you saw at Hell in a Cell. It is literally no different. And I get it, okay? I understand. You know, we're a lot more, you know, quote unquote hardcore wrestling fans. We're quote unquote part of the IWC. You know, we quote unquote love the business, die hard, believe in it, even though we trash it all the time. I understand casual fans. You got to cater to these people. You know, you got to give them what they want to see. Guys going through tables and things like that. I know some of you who are listening to this will never know what it feels like or have never once in your life literally daydreamed about being at WrestleMania, the grandest stage of them all, to face off against some idol of yours. Like, I'm almost certain that a vast majority of people who watch wrestling nowadays have never once went to sleep at night and dreamed of facing off against Eddie Guerrero and JBL and triple threat match and winning and becoming WWE champion and holding that classic old JBL WWE title. I'm almost 100% certain. I'm 99.9% sure. But you have to understand that despite the fact that we love wrestling and despite the fact that we're diehard fans and even though it's garbage, we're going to keep watching it, that does not make it okay for WWE to continue to produce and push garbage and for you to accept it. It's not, you would not accept. Here's the thing. America, and this is very indicative, this match was just indicative of what America's entertainment industry is as a whole. It's that anything that's too good is us insult our intelligence, and it's quote unquote for hipsters and, you know, IWC guys and things like that. Guys like Daniel Bryan, they're in CM Punk, they're so good. They got their, oh, you only like them because they're skinny, blah blah blah, and they're high flying, and it's dumb. Anything too bad, it just becomes a novelty act, and we throw it aside like Santino Marella or freaking Heath Slater. But if it's mediocre, it's mediocre. Yes, we hold on to that here in America. Look at your freaking Florida Georgia lines, your Taylor Swift, quote unquote country. They're just mediocre pop bands. But anything too good, like Lorde or something like that, it's like, oh, you only like her because she's talking about the opposite super hipster. Anything too bad, like William Hung, he's just a novelty act good for one song. And that's what WWE has become. It's become the entertainment. It's just entertainment. It's not wrestling anymore. But that doesn't mean that they just get to put on the same match. They literally, like, I have a copy of, if you want to see matches done rerun week after week after week to get cheap ratings, go pick up a copy of WWE or SmackDown vs. Raw 2008, go into your GM Hall of Fame mode, your 24/7 mode. Here's the strategy how you get Hall of Fame mode to unlock the achievement. You pick 2 superstars, you put them in a match every single week and just change the type of match, and then you just go. You never have to do anything different. You don't have to change anything. You just get them on screen and talk every now and again, and the ratings will just boost themselves. And that's literally how WWE is running not only this show. This match was indicative of the entire show that WWE has been putting on for the past few months. It's just everything's a rerun. You just spice it up a little bit by maybe changing the type of match, and all you do is when we get these guys on screen, like Dean Ambrose and Bray Wyatt both had 2 talking segments here that I did not care about, and these are two characters that I was clamoring to hear what they had to say when they first started here. When Dean Ambrose was standing in that ring with Roddy Piper, I can only imagine what those two would say to one another if it had been years from now. Like when that moment was happening, times that I was like, man, I can't wait till years from now. Hopefully, Roddy Piper is still alive, and Dean Ambrose has been a little bit more established on the mic and a little bit more established in the ring, and these two guys get to go at it. Before CM Punk left, I was like, oh man, CM Punk and Dean Ambrose in the ring when he was the front runner to leave the Shield. Man, I can't wait till a couple of years from now when these two guys, one's definitely going to be in the Hall of Fame and the other one's building himself a Hall of Fame career, or at least a decent little career behind him. I can't wait to get. And Bray Wyatt, same thing, man. I can't wait for this guy to take over this, like how we were all thinking, take over the streak and become the new Taker and just come and crush everybody's dreams. And none of that happened because you guys, us, whoever, the WWE universe as a whole allows WWE to just beat us down like we're in an abusive relationship, and to the point where we're like, I guess this is the best we can do, so we might as well just take it and chant "This is awesome" to a mediocre match that you have seen for the past 2 months. It hasn't been like last week, that was the first time they faced off in some odd match, or like the feud just started a month ago. It's been going on for technically like 2.5 months. And you just allowed that crowd, irritated me, especially because they just allowed anyone who allows that to be like, oh, that match was awesome. I'd argue, if you say you're a wrestling fan, like you love wrestling and you're a diehard wrestling fan, and you say you love that match, or you chanted "This is awesome" during those matches, don't say you're a wrestling fan anymore. You're not a wrestling fan. You're a sports entertainment fan. You're a casual fan. You get out of, you're not part of the IWC. Don't think you are. Don't go around posting on WWE memes with pictures of Doink the Clown or whatever retro thing. Just hop on BuzzFeed and talk about all the nostalgic things from the 90s, even though that was only like 10, 20 years ago. Just get out, all right? Because that should not be allowed. That's our new standard of awesome. Yes, things like, not Dean, Jesus Christ, Luke Harper versus Dolph Ziggler in their ladder match. That was a good match, but that wasn't a This Is Awesome match. These matches that Dean has been having, for God's sake, we just watched Dean defeat himself through his own quote-unquote hubris, aka stupidity, by pulling on a TV he saw was plugged in. And you had the audacity to put on these same stupid gimmick matches, and you people have the audacity to cheer that this is awesome. We just watched a man lose via stupidity. A man who's supposed to be, yes, he's a lunatic fringe, yes, he's just crazy, he just doesn't know, he's just gonna pick stuff up and do stuff with it. He saw it was plugged in. He's not supposed to be an idiot. He's supposed to be crazy. When stuff's plugged in and you unplug it. Common sense. You learn it as a kid. Don't touch the electrical outlets. They even make freaking electrical outlet plugs. We just watched this man literally disregard years of not only evolution, completely contradict social Darwinism. If that's the case, if Dean Ambrose will hop off of tables and then pull at TVs that are plugged in and still go into matches like this, he should not have been alive this long, as according to his character. That is disgusting that you will allow that to happen. You all need to go out there and you need to call WWE out, and that's what I'm doing right now. I'm calling WWE out as a company as a whole. The writers, the staff will allow this. Dean Ambrose and Bray Wyatt, I understand that they're wrestlers and they have no choice, and this is all they know, and that's how they make their money, especially in Bray Wyatt's case because it's in his lineage. But you cannot, as fans, let that just be a thing. That it's okay to put on the same match for months, and then you would go, well, if this is all we're going to get, then I guess this is awesome.
Yeah, no, it's just like they're giving in to the bullshit. Like, I get it, the show was terrible, but you can't just be, like, accepting in to this and saying, like, oh, yeah, well, at least Ambrose and Wyatt was good. It's like, no. If it's a part of a terrible show, it obviously was bad. There was obviously something wrong with it, too. Like, this match wasn't that good. And my problem is like, people, like, they just see a terrible show, and then, like, it's like when you have a pile of shit, and there's something nice in that pile of shit, you automatically say, oh my god, that was the coolest thing inside the pile of shit. Like, yeah, was it probably the best thing out of this pile of shit? Absolutely. But does that make it awesome? Does that make it a great match? No, because I always tell people we underrated the thing about great matches. It's like, nowadays people just throw out the word great, awesome, amazing, and good. like, well, mostly great and amazing and awesome. But it's like you guys don't understand the meaning of that anymore, because to me, an awesome match is something I'm going to remember for years to come. I'm not going to remember any of these Dean Ambrose and Bray Wyatt matches unless I'm like watching this one day drunk and being like, oh yeah, these idiots spew. Like, that's just the honest truth. Like, these aren't awesome matches. Like seriously, like 2014, the matches I'm going to remember from years to come are Daniel Bryan versus Triple H, Daniel Bryan, Batista, Randy Orton, and Shield versus Evolution the first time. Those are the 3 matches that come into my... And Brock versus Undertaker, mainly just for the ending.
Yep.
But it's just like, those are like the 3 matches for me that I'm going to remember. And maybe Brock versus Cena, too, from SummerSlam. Mm-hmm. That's another one that will kind of slip into my mind. Like, oh yeah, I remember Brock just destroyed the fuck out of John Cena.
Yeah.
Those are like the 4 matches that come into mind. Like, for 2014. Those are matches that stand the test of time that I'm always going to remember moving on forward. Like, sure, there were other great matches in 2014 that I'm pretty sure I can go back and rewatch, but they're not going to be the matches where I just remember, like, that's where a star was made. That's where a star was born. That was the moment for that superstar. Like, that's the thing about awesome matches. Matches become awesome when something good happens at the end of them. And it's just where you feel like, man, both guys became stars because of this match. Like, Dean Ambrose, he's not becoming a star of this match. He just looks pathetic. People are pissed off that he keeps on losing. Bray Wyatt, this guy is not a star anymore. This guy lost his star power, and the WWE does not know how to regain it. They're trying their hardest. They love this kid, obviously, because he used to be Husky fucking Harris, and now he's this interesting character in Bray Wyatt. But it's just like, look, just because he turned himself to an interesting character does not mean you have to shove it down our throats who he is. I mean, the problem is with Bray Wyatt is they rushed him into too many big feuds because they loved his character way too much. And they put him on this high pedestal that he was not ready to take. I mean, when you put him against Daniel Bryan, John Cena, and Chris Jericho in 2014, what does that think to you? Shit, this guy's a future champion. And now, like, the rumor is he may be facing Undertaker. But to me personally, Bray Wyatt's not ready for this shit. Bray Wyatt's not ready to be in this role. Maybe if you built him up a little bit better, then yeah, I could say you can force him into this role. But Bray Wyatt isn't ready. And that's the thing. It's just that the WWE just forced him into a high pedestal. And, when he was on that high pedestal, they never went with him. They never said, you know what? Even though if he's not ready, let's give him the win over Cena at WrestleMania. You know what? Even though he's not ready, let's see what happens if he walks out as the WWE Heavyweight Champion at Money in the Bank. They never did this. They never did it where they showed, like, hey, you may not think he's ready, but look, we put the title on him and we believe in him. They haven't showed anything, to me at least, that they believe in Bray Wyatt, and that's what I'm trying to say here. Like, don't get me wrong, I think the dude is great on the microphone. He has an interesting in-ring style. He's different than most superstars. But the fact of the matter is, they try to make him out like he's some big deal character, but he isn't. Because if he was a big deal, he would have beaten Cena at, WrestleMania. Mm-hmm. If he was a big deal, you would have gave him the WWE Championship when he was white hot around the summertime, but you didn't. So really, to be honest, when it comes down to it, WWE just does stupid things, and sometimes I don't like these stupid things. And this Bray Wyatt and Dean Ambrose feud is stupid because it's not helping either guy out. You're not helping Dean Ambrose as this legit threat to win the Royal Rumble, which a lot of people want him to do. They think that he's a guy that could be a big-time player, and trust me, I agree with that. They're not making Bray Wyatt seem like he's a big threat to Undertaker or Sting or whoever he faces at WrestleMania. Because with all these wins, you got to think he's facing someone big at Mania. He's not just beating Dean Ambrose for the sake of beating Dean Ambrose. No, he's being built up to face someone at Mania, and it has to be someone fucking big. So, really, to be honest here, man, it's just that it's a shame that people just accept mediocrity nowadays. Like, they don't ask for a little bit better. But hey, what can you do? We can't control the universe. If we did, a lot more people would appreciate the little things too. But hey, it is what it is. But yeah, this match, it's another Bray Wyatt and Dean Ambrose match. You can call it awesome. We're not calling you stupid if you think it's awesome. I'm just saying, you can call it awesome all you want. Just know I ain't going to agree with you.
Yep.
I just think it's another dumb booked Dean Ambrose and Bray Wyatt match where Bray Wyatt won when he didn't need to win.
And it's another unnecessary Dean loss that doesn't help. It hinders his character, and goes back to this whole Seth Rollins and Ryback. It hinders one character and doesn't do anything for the other, and that's what WWE is known for. It's keeping one character goes down the toilet while another one just stays middle of the road. And then they try to say how how high and mighty that guy is, even though he's middle of the road. That this is for Bray. They never took the chance on him, but they're gonna do it at a point where it's like, well, we don't care about him anymore. Instead of taking the chance on him, where it's like, well, we care about him. If you put it on him, if you put the company on his back for a little bit, we'll be interested to see what happens with that and where it goes. No, now we're not interested anymore, and that's when they're gonna put their marbles in with them. But whatever, I'm done ranting, and Chase done ranting. We're past it. Let's get to the main event, 'cause that's something else to be mad about slightly. We get the finale of the show. Got the Authority comes out. By the way, I didn't mention this earlier. Steph was looking particularly attractive tonight, so that's a thing. The knee-high boots on. But we got the Authority coming out for what is now going to be Cena Appreciation Night in like the last 5-10 minutes. They call out John Cena. They cut some little heelish promos about him. Triple H talks about how when he first, Shawn Michaels asked how Cena was in the ring, he told him he sucked, and that he actually wound up being something and got lucky, but then now he's a loser, and he's afraid, and blah blah blah, and trying to make Cena look like he's an underdog. And then they call out Ryback, Dolph Ziggler, and the Garbageman. Which, side note, beautiful. Absolutely dead silence when Garbageman came out. Now, I don't know if that's because of his music.
No, that silence for everyone. Not even Ziggler got the usual Ziggler pop where the fans cheer and then he points, "They hear you! They hear you!" Like, not even that Ziggler pop. It was just kind of like, Ziggler. It's like...
Well, at least it wasn't dead silence like what I was happy for.
It was pretty silent for everyone.
It was a low roar.
I think the Authority literally put these people to sleep. This was one of the worst Authority segments I've heard in a while, and it was one of the most disinteresting, and it failed at the job that they were trying to do, because afterwards, we got Ziggler, Garbageman, and Ryback being threatened that they were going to be suspended, but then the Authority were like, oh, we're gonna talk this over. We're gonna talk this over. They go up the ramp, and then they say, you know what? Instead of the suspension, we got something better. All three of you guys are fired, and it's thanks to you, John Cena. Let's celebrate. And the confetti and the balloons fell down to the ring. And it's just like this whole segment was trying to make you feel bad for John Cena. Not feel bad for the dudes who got fired, but feel bad for John Cena that he made this decision. Feel bad that John Cena stupidly said last week on Raw that I bring back the Authority. Feel bad for John Cena. Feel bad that John Cena did all this. They want you to feel bad for this guy. They're trying to, but it's just like, if anything, it's like, dude, I hate this douche even more now. Yeah. You're not making me feel bad for this guy.
I just thought about something, Chase. Sorry to cut you off, but I just thought about something. They want you to feel bad for Cena, right? Where was he out throughout the entire night when these guys were getting beat down?
Nowhere. That's the thing. Cena's character is the most asshole character of all time. Like we talked about, like when we did the first ever Raw podcast on my channel, the Grumpy Cat episode. Like, where was Cena when the fucking Authority was beating up his whole team? He wasn't there. He was literally just sitting in the back, banging Nikki Bella or doing something important. Like, Cena's just like the most asshole person they book on this show. And they try to make you feel bad for him that, he was forced in this situation, and now the Authority is firing his friends. It's like, dude, when the fuck has Cena ever shown so much friendship to these people? Well, let's take a list of these people that Cena got fired, okay? Let's look at Garbageman. John Cena, throughout his whole career with the Garbageman, has freaking buried his whole faction, attitude adjusted him so many damn times, attitude adjusted him off a steel cage. So you're telling me John Cena is going to feel bad for a guy that was trying to ruin his life early in 2014?
And then showed up at the last minute to save him because the plot needed him to.
Exactly. And then you look at the Ryback. You look at Ryback. So John Cena, the same John Cena that made fun of Ryback to his face back in 2013, the same John Cena that had no problem driving this man through an ambulance and had a long, heated blood feud with this guy. All of a sudden, he feels bad for Ryback. If you're John Cena, you're like, good. I'm glad Ryback's gone.
Especially because Ryback has been number one in stating, I don't have an allegiance I follow behind. I just do whatever the big guy wants to do.
Exactly. Like, why would John Cena feel bad that Ryback's getting fired? It's like, it's not like Cena and Ryback have shown that they're best friends. Like, the most that they've ever had was when Cena's like, look, I know I made fun of you, but at least I was a man about it. Like, that's the most of their friendship. And then when you look at Cena and Ziggler, these guys have a huge history of where Cena's just been a douche to Ziggler. You know, it goes back to the Vicky Guerrero days where Cena would just make fun of Dolph Ziggler with Vicky Guerrero. And then you go back to late 2000, was it 12? Mm-hmm. 2000, was it 2012?
2011, 2012? When did he win the money?
Where Ziggler was Money in the Bank and Cena, yeah, it was late 2012. Mm-hmm. You go to late 2012 where, like, Cena was trying to beat this dude up, like, for the Money in the Bank briefcase. Like, Cena hated Dolph Ziggler. So like, when has Cena in his time have ever shown that he's friends with these motherfuckers? These aren't people that are friends with John Cena in real life. Like, I'm sorry, like, that's another thing in wrestling, too, is, like, believability. Like, you can believe these people are friends. It's not like the Authority, let's just say, grab Nikki Bella, Daniel Bryan, and who would be, like, a Cena guy that, like, Cena really, really likes? Like, who would you see as someone that, you know, you could see buddy up with Cena? Big E. Okay,
yeah, I was about to say Big E.
Yeah, let's just throw in Big E because of the, you know, the weightlifting history. It wasn't like the Authority grabbed these three specifically and fired them. It wasn't like that whatsoever. I get it from the storyline sense that, oh, okay, it makes sense why the Authority fired these three. But here's the thing. They're not basing it off this storyline. They're basing it off that you're trying to feel bad for John Cena. They're trying to build sympathy for this John Cena character. And they failed at that because you don't feel bad for John Cena. You feel bad about the three guys who got fired. You're not feeling bad that John Cena made a human mistake. If anything, you're just like, wow, what a douchebag Cena is. Mm-hmm. You're not saying, man, Cena made such a human mistake that a lot of us would have made in the same situation. No. Cena made a stupid decision because he's an idiot, and then three other guys have to suffer for it, and these three other guys are okay with it.
But wait, Chase, here's the kicker. Hate the Big Show, though, because he made a human mistake. He's just being stupid. He didn't think, joining the Authority, yes. He did almost the same thing. He made a dumb mistake to side with people that he hates in exchange for victory. Big Show's a heel. Cena makes an idiot mistake to side with people that he clearly doesn't like and is just using. Feel bad for Cena.
Yeah, exactly. And then you have it where, like, these guys are okay that they just got fired. Like,
that made me not care about them, and that made me like.
This was stupid ending. It was just like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? Like, and here's the thing: it's not like Ziggler, Ryback, or Garbageman are going to get huge rubs from this. Because this is a Cena love fest at the end of the day. They're going to be back in a week or two. It's not like Ziggler, Ryback, and Garbageman are going to be gone from the Royal Rumble. I'm telling you guys right now, I will give the WWE so much fucking props if they somehow booked this to the Royal Rumble. If they somehow had this plan where it's like, you know what, they're not going to be in the Rumble match. But here's the thing, they need all the motherfuckers they can get inside the Royal Rumble match. Mm-hmm. They're not going to let Ryback, Ziggler, and Garbageman miss the Royal Rumble. Like, no, they're going to be back by, like, the week of the Royal Rumble. They're gonna have their jobs, and Cena's gonna have a lot of momentum heading into the Rumble, making you think he's gonna win the title or whatever. And we all know that
because he's avenging his fallen friends that he's not really friends with. That despite the fact that he got them fired, it would have. Why WWE? It would have because it makes too much sense for them to. Yeah, they glare at him. Fine, beat him up. What's it going to do to hurt Cena? If anything, it might actually make you go like, well, I mean, they beat him up, so he kind of got his comeuppance. No, they just stare at him, and they don't even kind of stare. They kind of just look at him like, this is all your fault, but they're still like sad faces, and Cena's got his stupid Tara Reid stud, never mind. Like, he's stunned, but then he said never mind at the last minute, face on, and you don't care. Now, one, you're supposed to feel bad for Cena. Strike. Two, even in the case where you don't feel bad for Cena, you're supposed to feel bad for these guys. Okay, well, that's great, you hit. But unfortunately, because they're not mad at Cena or beating Cena up, and there's no repercussions to Cena being a failure / a jerk, you basically just ground it out to first. So now the emotion you're supposed to feel, you may feel for these guys, is completely thrown away because there was no emotion in the scene whatsoever. Cena walked out with no emotion in the fact that, like, he didn't even come out like pensive. He just casually strolled down with the sad face on, the little droopy dog face on, to the ring, said a couple words. The only bright spot of this is that he never picked up a mic and talked, but nothing. There was no emotional anything into this other than, oh yeah, those guys who teamed up with Cena, which even in Erick Rowen's case, they admit showed up at the last minute. Those guys got fired. Feel bad for Cena. Wait, what? They lost their jobs. Yeah, but Cena though, how is Cena gonna live with the fact that he cost these 3 guys their jobs, even though they'll be back in a week?
If you're John Cena, why are you even upset? It's like, okay, cool. Like, I'm just saying, from a businessman standpoint and just from a human standpoint, these 3 lose their jobs. Cool. More opportunities for me.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Cool. You know, like, I got a WWE title shot to worry about. Like, I'm not worried about these 3 bumps. It's just like that's why this segment failed. It's just like, because we all, and it's not like they're going to be creative with it. Like, I would love if they would have creative segments where, you know, because like Ryback talked about in the past, he used to work at a bar. It'd be great if, you know, Cena, like next week on Raw, you know, he goes to the bar where Ryback's working at now. It's like Ryback, man, I'm sorry, and Ryback's just drunk out of his mind, and he tells Cena to fuck off. And then you have it where Ziggler, you know, he's now doing like a wrestling coach gig, or he's telling kids like how to be a wrestler, and then Cena tries to come, and then Dolph tries to avoid him, and Cena tries to talk to him and says something to him, and Ziggler just doesn't say anything and says, get this man off the campus, I don't know what he's doing with these kids or whatever and whatnot. Or you could have it where like the kids surround Cena because he's such a big star and a big name, and then like, you know, Dolph is pissed off at that fact, and then you have Garbageman work at a garbage place, and then later on he tells Erick Rowen he's sorry, and wow, that's the first time I ever called him that. He tells Garbageman he's sorry, and then Garbageman is all, and that would actually make me like Garbageman a little bit more if he showed more character. It's just like, you know, that would be cool segments, but you know the WWE wanted to do these cool segments where you have it where Cena's trying to apologize for them losing their jobs and losing something that they love. You know they want it. Cena's just going to go out there next week. You're going to have Paul Heyman out there. He's going to cut a promo like, well, John, don't you feel bad for Ryback, Dolph Ziggler, and Erick Rowen? Don't you feel bad that you lost them their jobs? Boo! You're the reason why, John. And you must be so emotionally distracted that I don't think that you can even beat Seth Rollins. And then it's going to be a Cena Rollins main event. Maybe Brock Lesnar comes out. Maybe he doesn't. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's just, you know what's going to happen.
Why did you just call like the next 3 weeks worth of?
I fucking don't know. I just guess, and maybe it happens, maybe it's not. Because you know Paul Heyman's going to bring it up in a promo.
And the thing is, too, is like you could even do it if you really want to prove, which they're not gonna. If you really want to prove that they've invested into these guys, especially in Dolph Ziggler's case, like they fire him, and then they're like, even if you want to bring him back next week, you can just be like, hey, you guys want your jobs back, you know. All you got to do is just go out there and just beat down Cena and have him come out like initially and kind of be a little bit pensive about it. But then, you know, and like Cena's apologizing, but they don't say anything. And then they just get blindingly furious. The fact that, like, when they're like, you know, he's listing off all the things that happened that he's done wrong, like Cena is known to do to keep trying to make you feel bad for him. And they're like, yeah, you did do all those things. And they get mad and beat him up. And they're like, you know what? I don't even want my job back. Ryback's like, I don't mind working the bar. I got to beat down Cena. Dolph's like, I don't mind training those kids. You know who's not going to be there here anymore? That loser Cena. Garbageman just goes and like, hey, can I take that trash out for you? And that's all he says. And then they leave. And then like the next week, they're like, you know what? You guys are back and you're in the Rumble. It literally could take you like 2 minutes to think of something for them to do, and it just is like,
and that would be effective because then you kind of feel bad for Cena, where it's like, you know what, even though Cena's kind of a douche and he kind of deserved that, it kind of was messed up for those guys to beat him up, but then at the same time you help those guys out because they're not really heels, they're just showing human emotion, which you kind of need to show in wrestling, because I'm just saying, people, they label this as the reality era. Like, this is real life and shit. This is realistic. This is what these characters are supposed to do. But if you're a real life human being, you have emotions. You're not the fucking Undertaker.
Yeah.
You're fucking human. Not every wrestler has to come out there and be a badass. Some wrestlers can be emotional, and those are the people that you can connect to the most. As long as if you can connect with them on an emotional / entertainment level. But yeah.
Yep, and that's that. Just nothing. Everything tonight was a swing and a miss. Just a strikeout, and the closest thing they got to was almost making you feel bad for Dolph, Ryback, and Garbageman, and then they grounded out at first. It's just like it was a night of failure after failure, and like even the flow, even though we talked about it out of order, the flow of everything was just like one match I didn't care about, followed by a match I cared even less about, until we got to Mizdow, and then I was like, I like Mizdow. And what they're doing is okay, but even to prove that, like, if this was just a progression of matches I don't care about, Tyson Kidd wasn't even out for the Natty match. No, he had something else to do that I didn't care about because I don't care about Adam Rose. And we know they're not going to do anything with him and Cesaro, especially when they pair him up with Adam Rose to face off against the new Baptist Church or whatever they're called. So yeah, that's Raw. It's just out with the old, in with the old. That was it. That's all this Raw was out with the old, in with the old. It was just like trying to trick you. It was like, oh, that's here. We're gonna do something new, something riveting for next year. The Authority's back. Don't worry, guys. It'll be crazy. We'll throw some kind of curveballs at you. We're gonna, just make everything. And nope, it was the exact same thing that's always been, always will be. I don't know why anyone expects that when the new year rolls around, or just because it's on the road to WrestleMania, that means it's going to immediately turn 180 and be 100%, 110% better. It's just the same thing. And WWE is getting more complacent with things like fans chanting "This is awesome" to mediocre matches. It's not going to get any better. That's all I got to say about Raw.
Yeah, I agree, man.
We've been at this for like an hour and a half. It's the thing is, and this is a closing thought, what makes this Raw worse is that it's with the promise of better, and you have higher expectations of it, and you're on the road to WrestleMania. I don't think a lot of people understand that. It's like, no, yeah, well, it's constantly mediocre Raws. Well, yes, this is a mediocre Raw made terrible by the fact that it's trying to build up the fact that it's not going to be mediocre. And that's that, man. Join us next week when we'll be talking about whatever mediocrity is going on that Chase, I think, just called in the last 10 minutes of the show for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, bro. Can't wait for those Paul Heyman promos again.
Your Paul Heyman impression is on point.
I try. Well, it's not a voice point, but it's definitely talking, how he talks.
Oh yeah, your cadence is perfect. It's a pitch perfect.
The cadence is there. The voice, I don't know. The voice is kind of hit or miss. Some people say you do a really, really good job on a Paul Heyman chase, but then some people are like, yeah, it's kind of okay, but hey, you know what? At least you got the cadence right.
Yeah, your cadence is right, and you're just squealy enough to be like if you showed up to a con with a bald cap and the side curtain and a suit and with a pillow stuffed in, I'd be like, oh, he's doing a Paul Heyman thing. That's cool.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Heyman, the one behind the one, in 21 and 1. And it's just the usual Paul Heyman promo. John, why do you keep doing this to yourself? Why is it that you always come out here and you talk about the hustle, the loyalty, and the respect, and yet you get none of it? You get none of it from these fans, you get none of it from your peers, and you definitely don't get none of it from the Authority. It's usual Paul Heyman promo.
Why are you calling all of Paul Heyman's promos for a year from now? Jeez. You're good. All right.
Like I said, the cadence is there. It's just the impression's kind of shaky. But my Vince is pretty good. I do a good Vince. John. I love you, John. You're the best, John. And obviously Hulk Hogan. Brother. What you gonna do, brother? With generic minority and Chase Oliver.
What you gonna do? What you gonna do when the podcast come back next week? I can't do a Hulk Hogan. I'm too tired. Whatever, guys. We're out of here. I hope you enjoyed Chase's impressions. Probably the 3 best impressions I've heard of wrestlers in a while.
I can can do Randy Orton too.
No, we're gonna save the Randy Orton.
It's an utter tragedy that I am not on this episode of Monday Night Raw, and I won't stop until Seth Rollins is dead.
It's perfect. I'm done. I'm stopping the recording. See you all next week. Tragic.